Hey everyone, how we doing today? This is James Sweeney, aka SplitSuit. Welcome back to another video. And as part of the Ask SplitSuit a Question series, a bunch of people asked hand history questions, and today's question comes from Eric. And first and foremost, I actually want to apologize to Eric. I reviewed one of his hands in the past, but I accidentally mispronounced his last name. It is Smythe, not Smith. My apologies on that, Eric. And Eric just wants me to review this incredibly interesting hand where he triple donked, so let's check it out. Okay, so because this hand is so incredibly unique and different, I'm actually going to do something unique and different with this video. So first and foremost, I'm going to show you what happened in the hand front to back, and then we're going to go back and replay it and talk about all the inflection points. So the way this hand played out, min raise from MP, here decides to defend the big blind, goes here, donk, faces a raise, call, donk, faces a min raise, call, river, Donk-Shove, fold. Okay, all that being said, let's go back to the beginning and see what we feel about this hand. So in this hand, there's a min raise from MP, folds to us, here decides to defend the big blind, and getting 3.5 to 1, I'm also going to be defending pretty wide here. I think A6 is going to do okay, so we're rock and roll and go from here. End up going to this flop, catch bottom pair, here decides to donk. So in this situation, the big question I ask myself is, do I have much of a lead range here? Or would my, say, hands like Jack X or flush draws or straight draws or that sort of thing, would I be more inclined to check raise them? So like, how am I creating my ranges in a situation like this? And just for the record, I know there's oftentimes a lot of questions about the term donk bet. A donk bet does not necessarily mean a donkish bet, like a terrible, stupid bet or anything like that. A donk bet is just simply a bet made into the previous street aggressor. MP was the aggressor preflop. If we're leading into him on the flop, then we are in fact donk betting. I'm going to use the term donk bet and lead quite often in this video. They're both the same exact thing. And again, a donk bet does not necessarily mean that it's stupid, just means that's the term and that's what we use. So all that being said, decide whether or not you really have a donk range on this texture and then decide whether or not you want to do this. Otherwise, maybe you're more apt to go for a check raise with things like 8-9 or clubs or gut shots or that sort of thing. So keep that in mind when you're kind of thinking about the way you want to plan and create your line here. Once you end up facing the raise, you decide to call, and I'm okay with that. You'd probably donk call with a fairly large chunk of your range, simply because you're going to be donking with a lot of things that have equity of varying degrees, gut shots, overcard, plus backdoor stuff, and blah, 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 in pairs and all that kind of stuff as well. So it's very, very standard that you would go for the call here. In 5 on the turn, you decide to donk and face the min raise. So the big thing that I would heavily consider here is going for a 3-bet. Now, the 5 massively favors us, way more so than it ever favors MP, right? MP could show up here with things like straights or maybe the occasional 2-pair, but we're going to have a lot more of that stuff in our range than he's going to have in his, and the 5 is going to give us a lot of 2-pairs, open up equity, gives us straights a bunch of different ways. So the 5 is way over us more so than him. So in this situation, when you just decide to flat, like, you don't rep 2-pair particularly well, in my opinion. You don't rep a ton of straights, maybe a couple, but probably not as many, because why would you just let the river roll off? Because there's going to be a lot of rivers that are going to like mess up action, right? Let's just say, hypothetically, say we had 6-5 suited here. Why would we call and let either a club, an 8, a 9, a 4, a 3, or any of those kind of cards roll off, right? Like, we probably wouldn't. So keep that in mind when you're trying to develop your line and think about, okay, like, how would I play 2-pair? How would I play straights? And does my current line mimic that? Do I have enough combos of that? And given the min-raise preflop from the big blind, yes, I think we most certainly do. Consider how you would take lines with those kind of hands, because that's going to influence the way you play these kind of hands as well. So that all being said, again, once you're facing the min-raise, you're getting a really, really sick price at about 5 to 1. So if you're going to do this, I can be way more on board with it. But again, does this rep a lot of realness, or are you more likely to 3-bet the turn with a lot of your range? As played here, I mean, MP is just in pure hell, and he's just going to be so hard-pressed to find a call with even an overpair at this point when we just rep a million different straights or 2-pair that could have taken this line. Could have. Again, not necessarily would have, but could have. So I'm not shocked that we got the fold. That being said, you kind of just got a massively ideal run out, right? This is like a hugely beneficial run out for you versus him. So this worked heavily because the board rolled in your favor. But again, like the turn decision, in my opinion, is the most important point. The flop, I'm okay with. Pre-flop, definitely okay with. The river as played, okay with. But the turn is where you really have to make that decision of, would I go for the 3-bet there with things like 2-pair made straights and some semi-bluffs as well? Or do I think there's no fold equity? And you can just use a fold equity calculator to prove it, to be totally honest. It's not too hard to do, but it's just one of those where you have to understand this heavily worked because you got the ideal run out. So I don't expect this play to work 100% of the time by any stretch, but it did work out. That's excellent. Just make sure that your thought process and rationale is correct on each street. And if so, awesome. If not, maybe go back to the drawing board and see if this was really the best play. So Eric, thanks for the great hand. And if you or anyone else has a poker related hand or question, feel free to leave it on our Google Plus page. Leave a link for that in the description box. And also please make sure to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this type of video. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. Otherwise, good luck out there and happy grinding.